Hey guys, Miss Christine here. I want to thank you for joining me today. I hope you're ready for some painting. So this rendition of Painting with Miss Christine is actually more for our teens and tweens because we are actually supplying all of the supplies this time. So that's canvas, brushes, paints, and you can follow along with the tutorial, and I hope you have a lot of fun. I would like to thank Perfidos and Alberitos as well for donating those little plastic ramekins so that we can get you all some paint. We have great neighbors, great community, and this is kind of our way of saying, you know, we miss you guys and we're thinking of you, and I hope you're thinking of us too. So I hope you enjoy.
Okay, so first we're going to just do our background colors. I'm not going to bother with whitewashing my canvas this time. Just think of this as our prep work. So I'm just going to take some of our blue, just our regular blue, and start up at the top. Don't want it too thick. It'll take forever to dry. Okay. About there. And I'm gonna rinse my brush. And get some green, maybe. Get the blue out. It's okay to go in with just the basic colors. We're going to blend and mix in some variations afterwards. You can do just this block, or if you like it with these really bright bursts of color, you can leave it just the way it is, okay? So that's part one, right there. That's our starting point right there. Next, with a clean brush, we're gonna take some of our white. I'm gonna have this handy because I always feel like I need to dab a little of your white off onto your styrofoam tray or palette if you have one. And I'm just gonna pull in some white down here. Work it up just a little bit to give us some depth. Okay. Yep. And rinse your brush again. And now I'm going to take some black. I'm gonna work it into our greens. So same thing, just going to take a little bit, dab it off onto my palette, and I'm going to add some depth to the background. Put some shadows over here. Don't be afraid that it doesn't look perfect because it's not our finished product, but we're just putting little details of where we're going to have shadows, other objects of shadows. I'm going to clean my brush and I'm going to blend that in a little better, but I want a nice dry, clean brush. Now we're gonna take some of our yellow and do a little more variation down here in our grass. Take a little on clean, dry brush, pat off some of the excess, and think about where you want your highlights. So I'll think, because I'm gonna put a moon over here, so I'm gonna put some highlights here. You gotta think about where your light source is. So I'm gonna put some right there, and yep, over here I think. We're starting to get some depth and detail in our background and our foreground. Okay, so now we're going to go in and we're going to kind of block out the shape of our tent. We're going to use Sharpie. You're welcome to use your paintbrush. I find this just makes an easier draw and a crisper line. Some people say it's cheating. I don't think so. Anyway, so about midway up your foreground, just make a line. Let's say, and you see if you don't let your paint completely dry before this step, it's gonna make it a little less dark, but that's fine. And we want kind of about the size of our Sharpie. So pull you over a little bit more and then go straight up like this. And we're just making our tent shape. Every time I do this one, it comes out a little bit different. So, okay, so now we have the basic shape of our tent there. I'm gonna go in and do my fire pit just about here. A couple of sitting logs, and then we'll do some trees in the background, fill everything in. Okay? So, fire pit, I think we'll do some rocks right around here and just make a nice little ring of stones for your fire pit. It can be bigger or smaller, and you don't have to do this kind of tent. If you would prefer to do like a teepee, you know, use your imagination, do your own design. And we're gonna put our fire in there. Maybe it's a bit chilly tonight and we need a good fire. Okay. All right. And then we're gonna do our shape of our logs down here. Doesn't have to be perfect, it's a log. I don't know any perfect logs in the woods. Okay, see, that's why our shadow's there. And then I'll do another one on this side of the fire. Gotta have plenty of seating when you're camping. Looks a little two-dimensional now, but that's okay. It's gonna really start to take effect once we start putting in our colors and our variations, okay? All right. I think my tent got a little bit bigger. I think my moon's gonna go a little bit higher on this version. Okay. For this next part, you're gonna want to take one of our other brushes here. I think for this, I'm gonna do my medium, my second largest brush, and I'm gonna make up a little variation of this yellow color. I'd like it a little bit darker, so I'm gonna take some of our yellow, okay, and I'm gonna take some of our red, mix that. So we have an orangish red, a little more yellow actually. Don't like going straight back into my yellow, but that's why we usually have a paint knife handy. So this will be for part of our fire, for some accenting on our tent if we want to create more depth. And so now I'm gonna take my yellow and I'm gonna go in and start filling in my tent. And we're gonna add and layer up more colors. And hopefully we're dry enough at this point that we can just go right on top. We are not. All right guys, so this is after our first layer of yellow, and you want to be patient with it because we're going to build it up. That's how you get some nice detail in there. So I'm going to take my brush and I'm going to take some of my yellow and some of my orangish red color and hopefully get a nice lighter orange. That's pretty good. We're gonna need quite a bit more of it. So let's just take a little of this yellow. And I'm just mixing right on my palette. You should get one of those ones with the thumb thing. You know, you just stick your thumb through it like Bob Ross has. He's always like smacking away on that palette. Love it. Okay, so that's about the color you're looking for. Just a little red, the orangish red and the yellow. And now I'm just gonna go over this again. Just want to get the good coverage. You don't want it translucent. I mean, maybe you do. Maybe you want to paint your tent so that you can kind of see through it, like you can see shadows of people inside. That's an idea. That might look cute. I'm still seeing some of my background colors, but like I said, that's why we're building up our layers. Okay. This isn't something you have to do in one sitting either. You can always step away, come back when you feel like it, because painting's supposed to be fun and relaxing. And if it makes you angry or anxious, it kind of defeats the purpose. So we're just gonna take our time. Hopefully enjoy ourselves. I'm just gonna finish this up and let it dry, and I'll come back and we'll do the next part. Okay guys, while we're waiting for our layers to dry, we're gonna mix up some brown so we can start on our logs. So, the way that we make brown with primary colors, since that's all we're using, is by adding red, blue, and yellow. These three colors together will make brown. it depends how much of each you put will affect the depth of your brown. So I'm gonna wipe off in between because I don't want to contaminate my pure colors that much. So take some yellow and I'm gonna start another wipe and grab some blue. You're gonna want more yellow than red and a lot less blue than both. Okay? So, and we're just gonna mix this together. See, a lot more yellow than the rest of these colors. We're already starting to get kind of like a sienna brown there. Yeah, I would say. So I'm gonna take a bit more yellow, add that to the mix, but I'm gonna leave kind of some of this darker off to the side so that we're getting little variations and we can use that in our details. Okay, see, that is getting much closer to what I want. If you want it even lighter, add more yellow. If you want it to be a little more pastel-like, you can add a little bit of white. But I like the punches of color, so I'm pretty happy with that. I might use a little bit of white later, but now I'm gonna take a smaller brush and I'm gonna start painting into my log. So I'm taking my second to smallest brush and I'm gonna take some of our homemade brown, congratulations guys, on mixing up your own colors. And I'm just gonna start to fill in my logs. Don't worry if it's streaky, don't worry if you can see the background. We're just gonna keep adding our layers. I suppose instead of logs, you could also paint in some of those little pop-up chairs. I guess I'm a little rustic, so I'm going old school. Sitting on logs, canvas tent that doesn't zip. Sure, I'll be eaten by mosquitoes by morning. Okay. Take some of this darker brown. Give that a little accents here and there. And we're gonna wanna let that dry before we go over it again. So at this point, I think I'm gonna take some more yellow and go back over my tent. I'm gonna take some of the pure yellow and I'm gonna add our orange to it, just building up another layer of a different color. Okay. Smush, smush, smush that around. A little more yellow. And I'm taking from the side so that I'm trying not to contaminate the colors as much as possible. That's what the palette's for. All right. Excuse me. Going back in. You can use your brush strokes to show the texture of the tent, the way that it drapes. Ooh, watch your hand, smudge my log. That's starting to look really nice. Where am I going? See, I let some of the other colors blend through, and I'm gonna punch up with some bright orange as my with my last layer. So this is why I'm going a bit lighter with the yellow on this layer. So it was a light yellow layer, a dark yellow, a light yellow, and then sort of an orangey layer. Okay, so I'm just gonna continue to fill this in. If anything is unclear to you guys, make sure you just drop me a question. I would love to chat or give you some advice on, you know, if you find that your technique is not quite working, maybe you can show me what's happening and I can give you some correction advice. But every painting is going to be different because we're all different. And I think just a little personality comes through in each of our paintings. So, like today, this painting isn't going to turn out like the last times I've done it, just because, you know, today's a different day, different mood, different circumstances, and that'll all come through in your painting. It's very cathartic, this painting business. Very therapeutic, I think, maybe is another word. All right, see, that's starting to look good. And don't worry about your lines, your edges, because we can always go back through and punch those up at the end. Okay. Now at this point, while my tent and my logs are drying, I'm going to take my small brush and I'm gonna go in and I'm gonna do my little stones here. So I'm just gonna start with white and we'll build up some like gray around the base, but I really like the pop of white. So, and I kind of want to stay within our Sharpie lines because it just gives it a little more definition. Doesn't have to be perfect. You can blob it on there, bloop, 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 bloop. Brush it in there. Okay. Remember, our stones are not going to be perfectly round. Very rare to find a perfectly round stone in nature. I think we could learn a lot from nature. Nothing's perfect, but it's all beautiful. Okay. Another one back here. That's all right. We can just correct it with our fingers if you get a little smudged. And we're gonna start going in and do our flame. So I'm gonna go back to, I think I will use my second smallest brush. Rinsing, drying, and take some of our medium yellow. Go into our flame. And we're gonna wanna let this dry so we can do a next layer. I am actually using a blow dryer, so that's why I'm doing takes, because it's obnoxiously loud and I don't wanna put you guys through that. So, I'll be right back after I've blow dried this and we can do our next one. Okay guys, let's take and do another layer here on our fire pit. What did I do with my brush? And I'm just gonna mix up a little bit more of this orangish yellow. We're gonna need a little more yellow than that. Okay. That looks good. So, this is a bit darker than the last layer we did, but it's gonna be, once again, building up our layers, light yellow, darker yellow, lighter yellow, till we get the right mixture. You want a nice warm glow. Alright, so we have that layer in there. We're gonna let that dry. And I'm gonna take a little, my littler brush, my smallest brush, and we're gonna take some white and put it with, or I guess I'm gonna take a little bit of my brown, our light brown, and I'm gonna put it into some white. And this is gonna give us the highlights, the color for the highlights on our log. So mix that together till you get, as I said, that pastel-y brown instead. And that's how we're gonna show some detail. Just here and there. Think of bark. It's rough. So just kind of pull some highlights through, do a little circle at the end, and voila. So go around like that, shows the end of the log, gives us that 3D effect, and then pull down the length to give it its details, its bark. You see? There we go. Okay, so I think it's time. We should probably put our moon in our background, yeah? So let's see. I'm gonna use probably the base of one of our little plastic ramekins, because that's about the right size. Might be a little bit bigger than I want, but that's okay. So, yeah, right there, right there, somewhere like that. Take my Sharpie and just do a little circle. And we're gonna fill this in with our bright yellow. And this one is definitely gonna have to be built up in layers as well, because that blue will really bleed through, and we don't want our moon to look green. we're gonna let that dry. I'm gonna take some of this bright yellow and put some accents into our flame. Don't be afraid to use your fingers. You can just blend it out. See? Okay. Actually, I'm gonna do the same up here, just because I'm not loving the brush strokes. Now we're finger painting again. That's okay. Our hands are very useful tools. All right, so let's let that layer dry on the moon and on our logs. And I'm gonna put some more just variation into my tent. So highlights here and there. I think I'll do, pull it down like that. Yeah, I like that better. Reflections from the fire and the moon gives it some highlights. Pull right along the top of our tent here. Really make that pop. Okay. This will really help our edges stand out. All right, I'm gonna go back to my blow dryer. Be right back. Okay guys, let's take some of our black here and we're gonna put some details into our rocks, and I'm just taking and very, very lightly dotting in some details, you know. Make it look more like stones. Doesn't have to be perfect, wherever you feel like it. Ta-da! Okay. Next, what are we gonna do next? Actually, while I have this black, I'm gonna take and put a little bit more of a shadow behind this log. And I'm not doing anything fancy, I'm just putting little smooshes, blending it out right behind this log. And I'm gonna do the same behind my tent, I think. So, and then I think that we should go in and probably start putting some trees in. Do another layer on our moon here. And we are gonna, when we do our last bit here, we're gonna be doing our swirls of smoke. We're really gonna want everything to be quite dry when we do that. So I'm gonna take my medium brush, or my second largest brush, and take some of this black, dab it out. And let's put some dark shadows back here. And we're just gonna work up because we're gonna have a tree here. So I'm just pulling sideways, larger at the bottom, and thinner at the top, and this is gonna be kind of our tree, and you'll see, you can just pull right down through. So working on our shadow, and at the same time starting our tree details. You see how I've just very lightly pull, and I'm just pulling in some details as I go along. You don't want to have a heavy hand with this. You're just very lightly touching. You want the background to really show through as well. Okay, so get like a scraggly top in there. See what's happening? So not only am I giving the shadow of the tent, because that would darken up a lot of our foreground, but I'm also just etching in our tree as we go, okay? But remember, if you don't want to go over your tent because he's in the background, if you want him in the foreground, you could definitely start it here and pull it over the front of your tent, and that'll give you the impression that your tree's in front. All right, so I'm gonna do another, we already have some. Right behind here, I'm gonna pull some lines and give the impression of another tree. Maybe this is a shorter tree. And that just comes doo. Doesn't have to be perfect. And I'm gonna do another one over here. So let's just grab our black. Oops, I'm gonna do a little more right there. That's better. And move to the left side of our canvas, and I think I'll have him start kind of down here. So same thing, a little black, and we're just gonna, the sound effects actually do help. So touch. I think we'll make this one a fatter tree. And I'll have him go right off the side. So this would be his trunk. Okay, a little more. I'm running out. A little longer here, a little shorter there. All right, guys, let's take some green, yeah, and mix it into the edge of our black here. So I want to keep it nice and dark, but I want to give a little variation to our trees here, because trees aren't black, right? No, not always, not normally. So we're just gonna mix some black into our green and touch. Just go back over it and give it a little variation, okay? A little more detail. I'm gonna do a touch more on this side since we're closer to our moonlight. And touch. Got a little carried away there, it's all right. going to put a little more shadow back here. Very gentle, guys. Since I'm already playing with my black, I might as well just go in and do our gap in the tent so we're not looking at the background anymore in there. Okay, see? Next, I'm gonna go and do another layer over my moon. I think I'm gonna stay light, so I'm gonna mix up a little bit of yellow and white, give it a more iridescent, glowy feel. So take some of our yellow, put it on a cleaner part of our canvas, and I'm just gonna take some of this white and mix up this layer. That'll make it really nice and glowy. Yeah, nice and bright. And add that. Guys, I'm just gonna use my finger for this, okay? You can use your brush if you want, but I would like this to be a little more opaque, so. Oop, don't worry. Corrections can be made if you get a little carried away like I am. Okay. I think I'm going to take some of this darker red here. Actually, put that in my flame. And now we're gonna dry up our layers and we'll do a little more. All right, guys, we're gonna go over our swirlies one last time to get that just a little more. I'm just gonna follow along right here. Got a little yellow in there. This is my very fine brush. I'm just making sure that you can see my swirlies, but not too dark. We want them a little transparent. Remember, guys, yours doesn't have to look like mine, but I would love to see yours. If you want to post them online. And I hope you enjoyed doing this painting with me today, and I hope you like your little take-home kits. I'd like to thank Perfidos for donating some of our plastic ramekins, and also Alvaritos. We have really good neighbors here. Such a great little community. And I love that they want to support our art endeavors. So, if you took part in this, you feel like saying thank you for the supplies, you can do so. So, basically, here is our end result. It's our little adventure scene. Take a little camping trip out into the woods. See that all right? I'd love to see what you guys came up with. If you have a different request for another painting tutorial, please by all means let me know. I'll definitely try. I can't say that I will exactly know how to paint what you want, but I can figure it out. So for just the finishing touch, I'm just gonna go ahead and paint my edges black. Just makes it look a little more polished when we're done. Yeah, so if you guys have any questions or comments, please drop me a line. I'd love to hear from you guys. Ooh. Just gonna bring that up along the edge a little bit. All right, there you go. I hope you guys liked it. Thank you for joining me.